What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Language of Dogs. I am your co-host, Justin Silver, along with my other co-host,
Kristen Hartley.
And this is the third man in charge, Brutus. We're excited to have you here. We've got a lot of great questions that came from everybody on our social media and through our Patreon page, and we want to interact with you, so please follow us. Our social media is at The Language of Dogs on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Our Patreon page is patreon.com/TLOD, and you can send us questions there, which we will address and answer on podcast. You get early access to the podcast, video training tutorials, and this show is not only streaming audio if you're listening to it right now, but you can also be watching it on video. You can watch it on Patreon and on YouTube. So, throwing it over to you, Kristen. We've got a jam-packed episode. Let's do it.
Well, I think one thing that I want to say really quickly about this podcast is that, Justin, everything that we're talking about on the podcast, I mean, you've been training dogs for many years.
20 almost, yeah.
Almost 20. And you don't look a day over 25.
Thank you.
Look at that. Is that these observations that we have, so I've been working in rescue for about 12 years now. So between the two of us, these are observations. And so everything that we talk about on this podcast is not a substitute for training. If you feel that your dog needs in-person training, please, absolutely go do that.
Yes, these are guides, not gospel, so we want you to learn a little something, take what you want, and leave the rest.
So the purpose of today's episode is we're going to be talking about Justin's favorite topic, which is the Big Six. So, Justin, what is the Big Six?
Well, commands. Think of commands as the buttons you push to explain to dogs what you want them to do.
I love it when someone pushes my buttons.
Commands are the buttons that you push to explain to dogs what you want them to do in any given circumstance. So a lot of times what people do is they know what they don't want their dog to do, but we can't train dogs in a negative. We can only train them in a positive. We can only explain to them what we want them to do when they're walking down the street and they see another dog that normally they would react to or they would get hyperactive around. What to do when there's company over and they want to jump all over those people, or when the doorbell rings. So the commands are the system of buttons that you push to explain to them what you want them to do. So we need to give them a positive behavior and teach them that behavior slowly and incrementally, and proof it in all the scenarios that would provide distractions, the places where you would obviously need those commands. Explain it to them very systematically, very clearly, and then corrections are really just course corrections back to that protocol that you're explaining to them. Now, I know that sounds heady, but we're going to explain it and show it here on the podcast today, because some of these questions are about exactly what I'm talking about. Dogs that are hyperactive when company comes over, you can't just say, no, don't do that. Or when you're walking down the street and your dog starts going after other things that you don't want him to go after, you can't be like, heel, 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 heel. You have to slowly and incrementally draw these out for them and explain it to them that it's slowly incremented into your day-to-day life.
See, I love that you're saying that, because I think a lot of times, especially because obviously no one's coming to me the way they are to you. So I have a lot of friends, I work in rescue. And a lot of times when I explain to people, you should train your dog, they're like, I'm not looking to have a dog that does tricks. And I think a lot of times people think training is only for dogs that either have issues or that they want a dog to do tricks. And so I like the fact that you talk about this in terms of that you are giving them a language and an understanding of, I want to help us communicate better and how we can interact with each other so that you can understand how I'm communicating with you, and I can understand how you're trying to communicate with me.
Yeah, well, most dogs, when they come and see me, are what I would call illiterate. There's 6 basic words, and all trainers have different versions of this, but it's similar enough. There's 6 words that all dogs need to know. That's their basic vocabulary. So if dogs learn those words, and you teach them those words in the face of things where you would normally have behaviors that you don't want, and you do those little things, the big things would never happen. So when I'm working on large issues like hyperactivity, reactivity, separation anxiety, the way that we yield those behaviors to behaviors that are wanted are with versions of those 6 words. So I want to go over the importance of the big 6, right? Those 6 words: come, sit, stay, heel, down, go to spot, how you would teach them, where people make mistakes in teaching them, and then where they would apply in your day-to-day life.
I love that. Okay. So we're going to just dive right in here. So obviously we're not going to cover all 6 commands in this podcast. So we're going to break this up into a 2-parter. So today's podcast is part 1 of the big 6, where we are going to actually cover the first sort of 3. And one of the things that you like to talk about is that there's really kind of no order, so to speak, in terms of how you tackle these. Or do you feel like, how do you feel that this should be kind of done?
So we're going to go a little out of order here because of how the questions came in on Patreon. But I always teach the sit command is obviously the easiest one to teach. The come command is the most important because it's the one that can save dogs' lives. And you end the come command with dogs sitting and giving you a moment of patience. So I usually teach sit and come first, but it kind of doesn't matter when you're working on the big 6 in the beginning. You work on all these together at the same time and they all sort of feed each other. The one thing that people are surprised when I tell them is that you can train dogs to do anything with 10 minutes a day, because you train 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. And then as things pop up in your day-to-day life, you sort of learn where these commands would apply. And so they get a little bit more here, a little bit more there. But with like 10 minutes of training a day, not 10 minutes straight through, just in these little compartmentalized segments, you can pretty much teach them everything they need to know.
I mean,
not for the rest of their lives, but you would have like a strong base.
See, I love that because I think a lot of people think that training in general is going to be overwhelming or a huge time commitment, and I think that breaking something down to be incremental matters. So, speaking of Patreon, I want to give a shout out to our 3 newest patrons. I want to say a thank you to Anna, Jake, and Janice for joining. Welcome to our community.
Welcome to the show.
And Anna, we are actually going to answer your question now on our show.
Cool.
We are going to have you just dive us right in. So Anna's question was, hi, Justin. We have a 16-week pitty who jumps and nips incessantly when he is over-aroused, like when he sees us coming into the house. We have tried the method of ignoring him until that happens and giving him attention only when he calms down. But he continues jumping and nipping even more. What is a better way of handling this?
I am so not the fan of just ignoring behaviors. It's just when dogs are jumping all over you and they're excited to see you, they're giving you all this energy. It means their drives are up. So when their drives are up, that's when you want to channel them to these constructive things that you want them to do. Just ignoring them is it's exactly just that. You're ignoring them. It's like if a kid is pulling at your pant legs and interacting with you and trying to get your attention, just being like, I'm just going to wait for that to stop. It's sort of like it's the long way. It's the longest way around getting the desired result that you want. And it's not addressing what their need, which is like, I have a need to interact with you. Can you please show me how to interact with you in a constructive way? All that drive that they're giving you, that's sort of like the gas in the tank to get them to follow through with the commands that you want to teach them. They're amped up. They're ready to go. So the go to spot, sit, and stay command are the commands that you would use in that scenario. And the cool thing about sit and stay is going to spot, sit, and stay, it sort of lands the helicopter for a second. You see me do it when I do the doorbell drill. You see me do it when we're working on dogs that have hyperactivity, because you're channeling them to something constructive. It's fulfilling their need to interact with you. It also serves the purpose of teaching them a modicum of patience, and then they get rewarded for doing a good job. Now, with puppies, you can't expect that the second they go to their spot and sit and stay, they're going to be able to do it just for a few seconds. That's where that counting technique comes into play, because it expands those few seconds to a few seconds more, a few seconds more. And the cool thing about training is that all training has the result of compound interest. The more you train and the more you teach them these things that you want them to do, the less that they are doing the other things. And the less that they are doing the other things, the less they get better at those other things. So anything dogs practice, they get good at. If every time the doorbell rings, they bark and they go crazy, and you go, stop barking, stop barking, stop barking. Every time the doorbell rings, you are training them to bark and go crazy. Anytime they jump all over you and you're just ignoring them, but they continue to jump, continue to jump, think about it as time under tension. Like with weightlifting, they're doing repetitions of jumping up on you and barking. The sooner you yield that to what you want them to do, the quicker they get to it. So the less they're practicing the former and the more they're practicing the latter. So it's like we either have deposits going in the bank account or withdrawals. So we want to get to those deposits as quick as possible. And we also want to have realistic expectations for what they're capable of doing based on their age and based on their energy level. We can't expect a little puppy to, when they first see you, when you come home, they're so excited to see you, to like just run to their spot, sit and stay like a little robot. That's not going to happen, but we can start to guide them into that direction and have a little bit of flexibility. And I'm going to show it to you right now because I did a session which was exactly on this, and you can see the process of me teaching that, because me saying it is one thing, but then when you see all the variables of things that happen in session, you'll see how I handle those little things and where I'm flexible with them. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I mean, I like that because it's almost like they are perpetuating their own negative behavior. It's like the more that they keep doing that cycle and you're not breaking that cycle, they're almost like self-training themselves to keep acting like crazy.
Well, yeah, and it's not negative or positive, it's just what they're doing. We decide if it's negative or positive. You know, all they're trying to do is interact with you and they're looking for the shortest distance to get what they want. If there's food on the table, right? And they're like, "Oh, wait, the quickest way to get this is in my mouth is to jump up on the table and grab it." And then you're like, "No, we don't do that here. The quickest way to get that into your mouth is to sit in front of my feet, look up at me, wait for me to give you a command, go to your spot, and then be patient for a second, and then I'll give it to you." And you can make new associations to everything with dogs as long as you follow through. For example, when this guy sees plates on my table, he runs to his bed and he lays down, because I've always made him lay down in his bed when I'm eating, and at the end of it, he gets to lick the plate. So now he knows the shortest way to that desired result is by running to his bed and laying down. If you just stay consistent, because I know this sounds hard, especially we all have busy lives, but if you just stay consistent with this framework that you're giving them, they don't really operate so much outside of that framework. Now, we want to expect progress, not perfection. So if someone's got a puppy that's jumping all over them and has high energy, you're not going to train the puppy out of a puppy. You're not going to train a dog that they just adopted to not be excited to see them and to keep those four paws on the floor right away. But we can get them to that calmer place sooner. Every time you give them a command, they take a snapshot they take a selfie of what you're doing in that specific moment. Oh, when he says stay, he pumps his hand out in a strong motion. He says stay like this. It's very clear. It's very consistent. If on the next one you have the treat in your hand and you go stay, and then you turn your shoulder, that looks different to them. So that's where they may get up and not follow through properly. So you have to do it really slowly. And you'll see in this video where I'm teaching it with this really hyperactive dog, how slowly and incrementally I add all these different looks and different variables, because this client, this friend of mine, this is her dog Cora, she can't even sit on the couch when her boyfriend is there. The second he comes over, the dog's all over them. So I want to show you how to get these dogs to sit and stay put when there are these things that their desires and instincts are pulling at them. All right, so here we go. Let's just watch this. Cora and Sarah, what's the ish?
So when I am home alone with Cora, she's an angel. She behaves really well, and as soon as I have company over, she is a little menace. She requires all of the attention. She won't stop jumping all over people, and if we try to have our own private time, she freaks out.
Sexy time. So dogs, they get jealous. If you're doing, this is consensual, no one write an email. Wait, verbal consent?
Consent.
There we go. Look, if you start to do things like this, dogs get, oh no, I have to be part of the makeout sesh. And then I'm sure if you're trying to have a meal, like I got something for you. So here's food going on the table. Look, and let's watch how she reacts. Every dog's favorite snack, a falafel. They can drive you nuts.
Shoot. Oh my God.
Go ahead, there. This is what happens, right?
I mean, that's a puppy.
Right, but you see how high drive and anxious, hyperactive this dog is. Watch. A lot of fun. Okay.
Whoa! It's like a bullet.
So I'm going to show you how to solve this problem using the sit-stay command, because patience is a skill that we can teach dogs, and it's a skill they need to learn. All right, so here we go. Now, the commands that we use out of the big 6: come, sit, stay, heel, down, go to spot. Every dog's essential vocabulary are go to spot, sit, and stay. I've been working with Cora and Sarah a little bit, so they have a little background on this, so that's going to be essential if you're going to be practicing this. So watch my other videos on teaching dogs how to go to spot, how to sit, and how to stay. And I'm going to incrementally add criteria by exposing Cora to the things that make her with the sit and stay command. So here we go. First things first.
Wow.
So this is her high
Cora.
drive. This is her desire to engage. So now we're going to channel it. First, we count to teach her patience. 1, 2, 3. Notice how she doesn't bark when I'm counting, because she's memorized this cadence, and then she knows she gets the reward on the word 3. Cora, eye contact first. 1, 2, 3. Good girl.
Notice the tone of voice. It's interesting to see how focused she is when before this she was all over the place.
There we go. Watch how she settles down more. Stay. Big hand, big voice. Just introduce movement. Okay, so here's incremental exposure to more criteria. Very simple in the beginning, right? Stay. With each rep, add distance and time. Stay. Repeat the command to give her support. Come back. Pause at the top. Now notice that all that high drive and that anxiety is now focused because she wants to interact. Now watch.
Wow.
I'm going to back up right to the couch, just putting my legs right here. Stay. This is important. Sit down yet. This is the first mistake people make. You're going to see it right here. They just assume, okay, she's staying, so I guess I can go do that thing that
go sit on the couch.
Right. So now watch.
Away.
Now watch what happens when I plop down on the couch. She's like, oh, that's the signal to get up.
Yeah.
Pretty cute.
So now it starts all over again. So here we go. Let me show you how to pause for a second, Joey.
Add this criteria.
Now, what most people do is they would go, no, stay. They would just keep assuming that why isn't she staying there? Right? Because we added a new look. It's
and then
different.
They get frustrated and they think it doesn't work.
Right. And then I get these messages, oh, I tried your sit-stay technique. It doesn't work. It's like, well, they put too much weight on the bar. Now we have to introduce we have to train her and proof the process of her staying while we give her these different looks, because that's the thing that's triggering her in the first place. You think she wants to be in her spot when myself and her mom are over there on the couch and there's food in front of us and we're cuddling, and we were just doing that for the camera, by the way. I'm still single and available. But you understand what I'm saying? She's not going to be able to do that, so we have to build up her tolerance. So we're putting a little bit more weight on the bar with each rep. So I want to show you how we do this. All right. So right back to the beginning here.
Okay, I got it. Ready? Sit. Stay.
And you see the eagerness on her?
Stay.
Ready to go?
Getting support. Now watch. Yeah. Stay. Just for a few seconds.
So giving the command as I
There's
sit.
There's a difference between practicing and testing. Practicing is like, oh, let me add a little bit of time and slowly add a little bit more so you can handle it. Testing is, let me just sit down there until she gets up. Stay. Stay. I'm saying it as I sit.
So now adding a little bit more time. So building brick by brick. Her ability to sit there and be patient as new things get added and slowly extending the time and rewarding her for doing the right thing.
Stay. Now there's a difference between me sitting down, very attentive with my incredible dancer-esque posture here and holding my hand out, and me sitting back in a more reclined position, which is what you ultimately want to do. So stay.
So now we want to sit back.
A little bit with me, Sarah. So now look, my hand is not there supporting her. Stay. I can pop it out to give her support, but ultimately I want to be relaxed. Stay.
So see all that hyperactivity just get channeled.
Girl. Now check this out. Stay. When you're doing this at home, who's ever closest to her is in the driver's seat. So I'm going to switch positions with Sarah. Sarah, come over here.
So now Sarah's going to take over.
You tell her stay.
Stay.
Different person does it. It's also different.
Stay.
Interesting how her body language
Sarah's
just
in the
changed
driver's
when
seat.
Sarah sat down.
Well, she saw a switch. So she's
Right.
like, wait,
Here,
is this
here's
my
a piece
cue
of
to get up?
Right.
These are all the things that people would miss
was
over.
like, oh, Mom. Like,
Right, so now
the
I
guy
can-
who's
Pause at
been
the
running
top.
me is gone now.
Right.
Now I can go get Mom.
Right, so she has to learn.
Stay.
So now notice, she
first.
said stay before she sat, right?
Right.
So you see the little mistakes that people make. You
But
see,
she's also
Now
her
stay
body
as you
language.
sit.
And this is
Stay.
maybe
Good.
me saying
Sit back.
she could be a little more firm. She's a little
mushy,
relaxed.
little mushy, right?
She's a little relaxed.
We want it like a conductor.
Where like when I was teaching Suki, like when I work with the pit bulls with the rescues, I'm always like
Firm, crisp,
yeah,
clear.
Yeah, here.
Big-
I use the two fingers, but like here.
Yes.
Like yeah.
Big hand, big
Yeah.
voice, very clear, positive tone, not
Yeah.
shouting. That's another mistake people
Very
make
interesting.
when they're trying to be. Dogs need specificity, not harshness. So I usually say, hey, bigger voice, more well-rounded words, because what they'll do is they'll go, sit, because they're nervous and a little anxious that the dog's not going to
Yes.
do it, so they start shouting. We want to remain in this positive, coaching, well-rounded, clear voice. So
I've been guilty of that. I yelled
get
at
it.
Suki the other day.
let's watch her do it again.
Okay.
So you see,
Sit
she's not on
first.
the mat.
Sit.
So these are the little mistakes that they're not mistakes.
Stay.
It's the learning curve that people make. But all these little specifics
stay
make
as
a
you sit.
difference.
Stay.
And I think
Good.
the thing is it's
Sit back.
consistency that people
Correct.
give up because
Now with a
it's
big
the
hand and voice, say it
consistency.
again.
Stay.
And put your arms around Miss Sarah.
So now we're introducing the look of cuddling. Look, my feet are up on the couch.
Contact with her.
See her looking around.
Stay.
Right.
There we go.
And if you break eye contact with her, she's going to be like, oh, okay, no one's communicating to me. So that's another reason they would
Stay.
get up.
So you can see she's working really hard. You can see her little mind going.
And that is
Yeah.
true. She is working hard. What you see how you're channeling her drives? This also
And she's fighting it. You can see that she like wants to get up, but she's like holding back
so look.
because she wants to be good.
Look at that. Now look, I plopped down on the couch and she stayed there. And of course, here's what we're doing. The sit and stay command is so important. If you could pause for a second, Joey. The sit stay command is so important because it allows them to have the voices in their heads of their instincts that are saying like, hey, I want to get up and be over there, and process those and let them pass rather than acting on them. So if people have dogs that have resource guarding, and when there's one dog eating, the other dog will run to that other dog's food bowl. This is how you would teach them the skill of patience, which allows them to observe the things in their environment as opposed to reacting to the things in their environment. That's why it's such an essential command.
So now that you've just sort of taught us like what the sort of go to spot is, and that is naturally sort of leading us into sit and stay, which is what we're seeing there, what would you say is, aside from consistency, because I will say, you know, people do give up. Like I could have been, Suki's very good at sit and stay, but she could be a lot better at go to spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in your opinion, for sit, what is the biggest mistake that people make?
I'm going to show you right now. Is
When
like I
teaching
just said, they say it too quickly. They shout it. They don't give the hand signal properly.
sit,
They're
sit,
just
yeah.
saying sit. Their dogs are not looking at them when they give the command. We'll come back to this video in a second, but I have a version of the sit command where I kind of make fun of the way people train it. So let's go to that for a second, and I'll show you the mistakes that people make. It's such a simple command, but a lot of you see people just repeating themselves over and over and saying sit 3 times, and then it creates there's so much wobbling when it's actually the essential command you need, because you probably have to tell them to do other things after that. Here we go. All right, everybody, here's something super simple, but a mistake I see people making all the time. It's how to tell your dogs to sit. I see people going, sit, this, pointing, doing all kinds of weird things. They repeat themselves over and over. They snap. There's a simple way to do this. The hand command should always follow the lure, meaning the lure of where you're trying to get your dogs to look. So, because this is a quadruped, when his head moves into the 45-degree angle, his butt has to go down. Just like with you and me. If I were to take my finger and ask you to follow it, at a certain point, you would fall back. For a dog, they're going to go like this. So, here's an example of it. Come, sit. This is the hand command for That's the sit. This signal.
Oh,
is the hand signal. It's just your arm locked off at this 90-degree angle. Come, sit. And I'm using a treat
Calm.
there, so obviously.
Sit. Come. sit. Good boy. And also, some dogs move quicker than other dogs. If your dog sits down really quickly, you want to move your hand a little quicker. If your dog sits a little slower, you want to move your hand a little slower. You're basically trying to time the speed of your hand with how fast your dog sits down. One more time.
For a second, Joey. So why does that matter, Justin? Why does the timing and the speed of how your dog moves matter? Because that's not something that even I would think to know.
So after a little while, dogs don't have to be looking at you and they'll sit just for the sound, right? But in the beginning, we're teaching. If I was teaching a kid sign language, right, and I'm teaching them how to make a J, I would go, J, J. We want to make it very easy for them to understand and handle. But if I could just go, J, J, or like my hand signals, or if I'm doing it in what would be the cursive version of it, we want to be clear to them. So my voice is always sit. It's clear. It's distinct. It's the same every time. It's a clear hand signal, a clear voice. And then after a while, you know, like with the dog like Brutus who can do my taxes now, I can go, come, sit, stay, heel, 8. And he'll do all these things because we've practiced them. But if your dog's having trouble sitting or having hyperactivity in the house, it's clear that the basics are not tight. So we want to get these basics tight. When I see people for whatever the session is, and I ask them what's your dog's vocabulary? Like, well, you know, sit, come, paw. Some of the things are irrelevant. Like paw is fun for bonding with them, but it doesn't really serve a purpose. Come, sit, paw, and I say, well, show them to me, and you see how fuzzy these things are. You see how mushy they are. So if they're mushy, if the base of the table is wobbly, everything placed on top of that is going to fall off, right? So we're trying to work with a dog that needs to learn the skill of patience in the household, and there's a bunch of company coming over. That sit command better be very clear, concise, and proofed.
That's a good
so
point.
My point is that when we're trying to proof things, we want them done properly. Right, not perfectly all the time, but you see all the wobbliness of this and the mushiness of this when you're working with people. So that's why. And that's what I'm saying. If a dog sits down a little slower, sometimes they go sit, and it's like the dog's sort of missing what they're saying. You're not communicating at the level that they're hearing. They haven't picked up the phone yet. If they're not looking at you and their heads are going like this, and you go sit, it's like they're like, what? They haven't even picked up the phone yet. So here we go. We'll watch a little bit more of it. You'll see.
Sit, come, sit, come, sit. It's not sit, it's not sit, it's not sit up here. It's from here to here, just like this. Look at his head.
Now,
sit.
About like waist high.
Right, and the reason we're doing it like this in the beginning is because the hand command should follow the lore. The lore is the lore of where you're trying to sort of manipulate the biology of their body to make it easy for them to fall into that position. After a while, if you snapped every time you did the sit command, eventually all you'd have to do is snap and they'd sit. Just like snapping would be the signal to sit, just like my dog seeing the plates are the signal for them to run to their bed and lay down. You know what I mean? Like you can change it over time, but we want to get these basics right in the teaching process. So we're sort of doing paint by numbers here. I know when I posted this video on YouTube, I got a million questions like, why does it have to be like that? Sometimes I just say, like, everybody's got to nitpick everything apart on the internet. It's like, you clearly see I'm trying to teach basics to make it very user-friendly for people who are having trouble with this or wondering why they have to repeat themselves, or when they ask their dogs to sit, they're not doing it, and they have to, you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Let's go back to the core video because I want to show you how over time you can keep adding criteria and adding criteria, okay?
Sit.
Because after this, we want to cover stay.
Yeah.
Which is what the end of this is.
Here we go.
So you see that triggers him a little bit. No problem.
So when my feet went up on the table, she got up. She's like, wait, that's...
Down.
So now I'm trying
we're
to...
all relaxing now. I can get up.
Look, I'm trying to do
what
normal
you do is
things that
just
she would
every now
see
and
when
Tell them to
Sarah
stay,
and her boyfriend
warm
are on the
them a little
couch.
bit.
Right.
Stay. We're slowly building her tolerance, her muscle to be patient. We're building a muscle.
Good girl.
Wait for eye contact, see?
Stay.
If someone said, stay right there,
The falafel
before
test.
she was looking...
Uh-oh.
So now look, I put food on the table. If someone said stay there before she was
Cora.
looking, she would have gotten up.
Go to spot.
So now we're adding criteria.
Sit.
Food on the
Stay.
table, myself and her mom sitting on the couch.
Stay. I'm a gentleman. You first.
Now look what she did. She just laid down patiently.
Now, we don't want to tease her and be like, For this instance, it's okay. You're not gonna take a bite. It's really good.
For real? Wow.
Yeah.
That's another point. Hang on, Joey. You see, I said I don't want to tease her.
Yeah.
If you're just practicing this, the
Right.
last thing you would do is be like, oh, I'm going to teach my dog to sit and stay. Today's the first day we're doing it. Let's invite a bunch of company over.
Right.
I'm doing it for the sake of a demonstration, and I
Right.
know I'm going to get this right, so I can move kind of quickly here.
Yeah.
You understand what? That's what another example of putting too much weight on the bar. Right now, I'm sort of doing the steps that people would do over the course of a few days here.
Yeah.
Right. If you notice, when I said stay and then I turned and I went and got the falafel off the counter,
Yeah.
what I did was I said stay and I turned with the far hand, with the hand that was furthest from her, because I know if I just did it like in a flimsy way and I went stay and I turned my back, she'd be like, wait, he hasn't told me to stay when he stands up and walks in that direction. So all these little details that I've worked out are sometimes seamless because I do it every day.
Right. And I think that it's also about teaching and telling our listeners that these little things matter.
They
like
100%.
and because they're also like little kids where they're watching for every little window
Yes.
and every little nuance.
They pay attention to us all day. We're their evolutionary niche.
Right.
They hear us all day. They hear us on the phone. They hear us when we're arguing with our lover. They hear us when we're answering when we're on a customer service call. So then when people start baby talking them, they understand the difference in those intonations. You understand?
Right.
Now I want to make another point here.
Right there on the table. Good. Good girl. Now, a big mistake people make is they don't teach their dogs how to go to the spot and stay correctly. So you can watch my videos on how to do that. So just going, go to spot, that's not going to work. When we first do it, we always want to lead with the hand in the direction that we're going. So watch.
So there's a go to spot. Watch.
Go to spot, sit, stay. So I'm open to her, right? If I just go to spot, she's just going to be looking at the end of my hand. Stay. Good. Can I
You
have a
see,
bite
so
of the
it's
same
got
one?
to be clear.
Thank
Yes.
you. We're buds.
Watch. Now she's staying while we're eating.
Right.
Something she wasn't able to do before. What
Sorry,
normal
I'm
people would
awful.
do
I'm
is
awful.
they'd sit
Sorry.
down, put a sandwich on their table or put food on table, and then start yelling at their dog, go to spot, go to spot, go to spot, right? We have to walk them through it
Actually,
step
they'd be
by
screaming,
step.
get off me or
Right.
get down.
Yeah. And watch how quickly you could advance these
sorry,
when done
sorry.
properly. I think at this
Sorry.
point I'm going to put that falafel on the floor and she's not going to move.
What?
Yeah, and the reason being is because I'm communicating to her
Okay.
with the correct hand.
Great. Now, I'm just going to give you an example of how to use your hand commands in conjunction with adding criteria. So I'm really pushing her here, but bear with me for this. Now, just watch what my right hand does while I put this down.
Watch which hand communicates.
Stay. Same time. Cora, name for eye
So
contact.
the hand closest
One,
to her communicates.
Right, then drawing her back to my eye
One,
contact. You see she wants to get
two,
up.
Right.
3. See, she's overperforming. She's like, what do I have to do to get that? So she lays down, gives me that eye contact. Cora, stay.
Now watch, I'm going to step behind
1,
the food.
2,
So the food is
3.
in between
See
me
how
and
her
her.
eyes don't move off mine?
So look at how this is really
like a little
building
bit at
her
the end, but I'm not
muscle
so worried about
to be
that.
patient and to be calm in the face of
Stay.
things that her instincts are telling her to react to.
This is unbelievable.
Stay.
Look, food in the middle of the floor, and I'm going to walk
1,
behind it.
2, 3.
There we go.
Wow.
Good girl.
For our listeners, she is not moving.
Stay.
Well, you could watch it on, watch it on YouTube. You'll see this. This
But
really.
there is literally
Stay.
a plate of falafel on the floor,
little bit,
and
Sarah?
this dog is not moving.
Now watch. Now
Stay.
we're going to sit back and relax.
Right.
So you're slowly and incrementally
Right.
trying to build a muscle, and you're raising. They're understanding what you're expecting them to do, and then because you're rewarding them for it, it builds their self-confidence. It builds their sense of self-esteem. It also bonds you with them, and it teaches them, now we know what we want her to do. What do we want Cora to do in the face of things that she would normally react to in the house? We want her to go to her spot, sit and stay, and we've practiced it with all these variables and all these different things that she's going to see, which would normally get her to get back up and have the command fail. And we've done it slowly, incrementally, and patient, and we've also communicated to her in a clear, concise, consistent way.
So
Right?
I'm going to be devil's advocate for a second
Sure.
because I'm wondering this question. So if I'm wondering this question, I know that our listeners are wondering this question.
Mm-hmm.
What is a reasonable amount of time / effort that an average person should expect to have to put in to teaching for that? So for example, is it okay? So you're saying 10 minutes a day, 7 days a week for how many weeks to be able to get
That result?
maybe not that result, or like to be able to get a result.
Proofing to me is done when there's 85% proficiency. So how long until it's proofed? Depends. If you have a puppy and your puppy's really hyperactive like Cora is, it's going to be a little tougher and you have to be patient with them. Right? It's also, there's your learning curve for how good of a teacher you are. It's one thing if you watch
Can't give up.
Right.
Then pick it back up.
If you watch a workout class online when you're at home, right, you think you're doing it exactly the way the instructor's doing it, but if that person were in the room, how many times would they correct your form, right? A bunch. So you have to be patient with yourself. But I tell people, if you do these things, if you do 10 minutes a day, like 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, I'd be shocked if people don't say, yes, this is at 75% at the end of 3 weeks. That's sort of average, because when I work with clients and we do, let's say we do a 4-pack, we do once a week. I give them 2 commands per week, and then they practice those 10 minutes a day here and there. They practice those until I see them the next week. By the end of the 4 weeks, the commands that we did first are usually pretty well proofed. And then the ones we did second and third, they understand the process of teaching. So those commands are pretty close to proofed also. Proofing never ends. You're always going to, like, training never ends. It's like when do people stop learning as grown-ups? We don't. You're always learning. So it's like anytime, when me and Brutus came back to New York, he knew how to walk off leash in LA, but now he's going to see all these different sights and sounds and smells of the city. We have to proof it in the city. So it never ends, but you get quicker and better, and you start having more fun in that process, which is going to be the rest of your life. It's just not going to be, you're not going to have to be as on top of it like that. It's like driving, when you're first driving, your hands are at 10 and 2, you're paying attention to everything, look at every sign. As you become a better driver, you're leaning back a little bit in the cut. Mm-hmm. You got music loud. You don't have to,
Yep. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
Got it.
Cool. So there's go to spot, sit and stay. There's a practical application for go to spot, sit and stay, and that's an answered question for a hyperactive puppy.
Absolutely. And please go to our Patreon and our YouTube page so that you can see the full videos for all of those.
Sure.
So, and we've got products, toys, links to all of our recommendations, and more.
What's up, everybody? Today's episode is brought to you by Darwin's Pet Food. Now, Darwin's raw organic pet food is one of my favorite pet foods. It's got all the organ meats, vegetables, vitamins, and minerals that dogs and cats need for health, longevity, and well-being. Ships frozen to your door in these convenient peel and serve packages. They have all different types of proteins. You can either cook it or feed it raw like I do. So if you head over to darwinspet.com, click Try It for $14.95 on the bottom of the screen. Enter the promo code TLOD, as in the language of dogs, TLOD. They will ship you 10 pounds of this for $14.95 and a free sample of jerky treats. And they don't even keep that $14.95. They send it to my charity, Funny for Fido, and I use that to send Darwin's to shelter dogs.
So because we covered what mistakes people make with sit, what are some of the mistakes that people make with stay?
Okay, so like I said, they add too much criteria too soon. In the beginning, and we have a video for this too. In the beginning,
putting a plate of food down on the floor.
Well, no, that's like the most criteria. But there's little examples of this. So when I teach it, you'll see there's a process of where it's big hand, big voice, very clear. Then I start doing things like going laterally, and we'll show it right here. Let's just start. This is Sweepy who passed, but you'll see the process of teaching and adding criteria. Now he knows how to do it, but that doesn't really matter so much because it's the same way you teach it with a dog that doesn't know how to do it.
With each rep, increase distance and time. Stay. Repeat the command to support him.
So repeating the command to support.
Good boy.
Wait for them to look at you.
And big voice.
Repeating the command to support is different than going stay, 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 and being tentative.
Further, so stay.
I'm just reiterating every time I give him a new look, like I've gone a little further.
Pause at the top. Good boy. Now we're going to add some lateral movements.
So notice as I turn the clock,
Coming to 6 o'clock. Stay.
that's repeating the command for support,
To 9.
because he hasn't seen me go in that direction.
Back to 6. Stay. Then 3 o'clock.
Now, this could be just as easily in your house if you say stay.
Notice my chest is open toward him. I'm facing him. And anytime I hit a transition, I repeat.
Pause for 1 second, Joe. Anytime, if you're doing this in your house and you're like stay, and then you walk around your dining room table, like you can't, you have to do that incrementally. If you say stay and then turn your shoulder because you're going to go in a different direction, you're creating a blind spot. So the point is you want to be very clear, big hand, big voice, not shouting. That's the two things people do in session. They go, stay, stay. Or they're nervous that their dog's going to get up, so they go, stay, 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 and they don't start walking. They don't move. Or they say, stay, and then they start walking in this, like, creepy manner. It's like, and then the dog knows you don't normally walk that way, so they're like, why are they walking that way? So you want to build your own confidence and their confidence at the same time. Blind spots are also something that people don't understand. I said, keep chest open to them. Big hand, big voice, chest open to them. So that if you turn your shoulder to start to walk to the right, now you're not facing them. That makes it more difficult, and they're sort of looking for where your eyes are. So you'll see in a second how I do the blind spots when I start turning around. You can press play again, Joe.
Pause at the top. Good boy. Now I'm going to go a little further.
Oh, first I'm going to go behind
Stay.
him.
Trying to keep my chest open if I can. Stay.
That's the furthest point.
Around the other side.
I want to get to the point right where he would have to get up and make a 360 to face me, because eventually I'm going to go behind him.
Stay. Back to 6. Pause at the top. Good boy. Now I'm going to add some criteria by breaking eye contact.
Okay, so
with
here's
him.
the blind
watch.
spots.
Stay. I'm going to turn around quickly.
Break eye contact.
Stay. Repeat the command when we make eye contact.
He's like, wait, I
again.
haven't seen that before.
Pause at the top.
So you can imagine if with Cora, if I got up and just walked over to the kitchen and grabbed the falafel and I broke eye contact, she would have gotten up.
I'm going to turn a little slower now.
So now more time in the blind spot.
Stay.
And if you notice, the
So
command
by
is
turning
done.
slower, the blind spot is longer.
Command is said the same way each time. Look.
Stay.
And what we want to get to is where I'm just saying stay, and then I
Stay.
turn around and walk the way I walk. Which is what people do in training sessions too
boy.
early. They go, well, I want my dog to stay while I walk away.
Stay. Now I'm just going to walk away and walk the way I
So
walk
that's
naturally.
how you get to this point. You
Right.
build to the point where you just go, stay, and I can walk in a store. You know what I mean?
I don't know if we're encouraging
But
that.
you see my point? I'm not encouraging that, but I'm saying I could do it. So I
To
could
be
go.
very clear,
Now I'm gonna
people,
increase the
please
blind
don't do
spot
that.
by going
We
behind
can pause this now.
Here we go.
So that's my point. Is like what people want to do is they go, yeah, I told my dog to stay, and I went, I plopped down. You want to
head
build
turn,
up to
walk
that
right.
slowly and incrementally, and it's a step-by-step process.
So that's one of the things that I love that you always say is that it's a marathon and not a sprint. That you have to do these things step by step, and you have to take it little bites and bits at a time. But you got to keep going.
Sure. Yeah, you just have to be consistent with them, and people are, and then it starts to be starts to be fun, and the process of teaching becomes something that dog owners understand. And then you don't really need, when I'm doing training with people, I'm like, my goal is to get you up and out so you don't need me anymore. Once they understand the process of how dogs think, learn, and see the world, and then you can apply that to your day-to-day life, people are like, oh, this is easy. And then they figure out, through the proofing phase, they figure out where they need which commands where,
And
when they need which commands where, which where.
And both of us can honestly say that the biggest mistake that I see people make is they don't follow through, and
Yeah.
they don't stay consistent
Sure.
with it. Like
Uh-huh.
they just eventually just like either they get tired and they give up, or they don't see the result that they want to see as fast as they want to see it, and they give up.
Yeah, that's why I try to break it down. I'm like, if you just did 10 minutes a day, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes here, like that's something reasonable that people can do.
Beyond reasonable.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a dog that has these issues.
Yeah.
So, well, please, please, please go to our Patreon, go to the YouTube, go to our Instagram, The Language of Dogs. Check out the videos. They're there for a reason. And do the work. Do the work. So speaking of doing the work, we have some rescues and some nonprofits that we want to give a shout out to.
Yes, and I just want to remind everybody that Kristen and I run funnyforfido.org. Funny for Fido is comic stand-up for homeless animals. We've been doing these big comedy benefits for like 15 years, and we give all the money to the rescue shelters. We take donations throughout the year. It is funnyforfido.org if you'd like to donate, or if you go on PayPal, it's paypal.com, and then you have to enter the email address. It's funnyforfido@gmail.com. We're not associated with any one specific rescue. We just peruse all the different rescues and the different shelters, and we see dogs that need the money, and we allocate those funds specifically to those dogs. We get receipts for the medical care that they need, or if there's things that the rescues need, like, we have to put heating in here somewhere, we get receipts for those. So we kind of vet on a case-by-case basis. You can always donate directly to those rescue organizations, but you could just also give it to us, and we'll make sure those funds go directly to the animals. I want to give a shout-out to Second Chance Rescue. They work directly with shelters, meaning like the city shelters, to help animals in need. They enable thousands of animals to receive urgent medical care and a second chance to thrive in their new life. They help with overpopulation, education, rescue, and rehabilitation. And I have to tell you, popping up in my Instagram feed a few weeks ago was this one dog, Nala, who suffered this horrible case of abuse, and this is kind of hard to see. She had her entire back burned off, and they did skin grafts with her. They raised thousands of dollars. I posted this, and we got tons of donations for her. Took incredible care of her, and now she is thriving in her forever home. And they take so many abuse cases, things that I'm like, I don't know how they do it. But if you just go through their Instagram account, which is what is it? Let me see it again. It's NYCSCR. So New York City Second Chance Rescue, NYCSCR. You just see all these happy dogs in their new homes. So they have so many success stories. I know it's hard to go on there and see some of those abuse cases sometimes, but someone's got to do this hard work, and they do it. And it's awesome to just see the people who adopt these dogs and the process of them rehabilitating them. And when you just see them smiling and happy, it's like these before and afters are incredible. So they definitely deserve a shout out. And again, you could donate to us, and if you do, you could put NYCSCR in the notes, and we'll make sure that money goes to this rescue. Otherwise, we're just gonna put that money wherever we think it is needed the most at the time.
And we also want to give a shout out to our TikTok dog account of the week. So our TikTok, because I am a TikTok
I leave this part up to you.
Addict. I am, and I don't care. And so our account this week is Megan Reginald Sebastian. So this is one of my favorite TikTok accounts, and this is a family that is in Britain, and they have these incredible English bulldogs, and you'll see in their video, so they're one that is Reginald. So Reginald has to go down the stairs, and the way that Reginald goes down the stairs is Reginald literally flattens himself on the stairs, and he slides
bobsleds down
on his stomach, cool runnings down the stairs every day on his belly. And so this is Reginald.
What is wrong with you two? It's 6:15 in the morning when you're out of bed. What's up?
Here he goes.
Hey?
These poor bulldogs have no idea how unfortunate their bodies are.
Well then.
I think they know. I know how unfortunate my body is.
Look how long he just sits there doing nothing, trying to amp himself up. I mean, he doesn't even want to go.
This. Yeah, this is how I get up in the morning. I mean, look at this.
Too much
just coming down. I mean, just coming at you. And we got another link where we got another one just full frontal. Here we go. Look at that. I mean, this is how I start my week.
That's cute.
They're the best. They're just the best. So so check them out on TikTok at Megan Reginald Sebastian. So we will see you all next week for part 2 of
the Big
Six,
yes.
Which you're not going to want to miss.
Yes. And until then, please follow us on social media. It's at The Language of Dogs on all social media platforms. Hit up our Patreon. It's patreon.com/TLOD to ask us anything you want that we will answer here on podcast. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. Until next week, we'll see you next time.